What would you do if one quiet afternoon, a single open window rewrote your entire life? She stopped by her mother-in-law's house to share ultrasound photos. 4 months pregnant, glowing, safe. Then she heard it. A voice on speaker. Her husband, another woman, a plan. Not to leave her, worse, to erase her. Money transfers, a staged scandal, a clean divorce before the baby comes. In 60 minutes, we'll peel back every layer. The secret partner with a spotless public image, a son drowning in debt, and a mother who thinks she's protecting the family. No deepfakes, no high tech, just lies, leverage, and one recording that might not be legal. Was it betrayal or a twisted rescue? And when the second window opens, months later, will what she overhears save her or break her for good? Stay with me. If you love stories with real stakes, raw confessions, and endings that heal instead of punish, this one's for you. Before we dive in, tap like so the algorithm knows you're here, comment your guess about the twist, share with someone who loves jaw-dropping drama, and subscribe so you don't miss the truth behind the window. Emma Reed's hands trembled slightly as she pulled into her mother-in-law's driveway. It wasn't from nervousness exactly. It was excitement. Pure, unfiltered joy that made her 36-year-old heart feel like a teenager's again. She reached for the ultrasound photos on the passenger seat, handling them like precious artifacts. In a way, they were. 3 years of fertility treatments, countless injections, more tears than she could count. And finally, after 7 months of holding her breath every single day, she had made it to the safe zone. 4 months pregnant. The worst was behind her. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across Linda's perfectly manicured lawn. Emma had called ahead, but Linda hadn't answered. That was normal. Her mother-in-law often worked in the garden with her headphones on, losing track of time among her roses and hydrangeas. Emma grabbed the photos and stepped out of the car. The suburban street was quiet, the kind of peaceful that made you forget the world had any problems at all. 2 houses down, someone was mowing their lawn. The smell of fresh-cut grass mixed with the faint scent of Linda's jasmine climbing the front porch. As Emma walked up the stone pathway, she noticed the kitchen window was open. Linda always opened it when she was cooking. Emma smiled, imagining her mother-in-law preparing some elaborate meal, probably for one of her charity functions. Then she heard the voice, Linda's voice, clear and unmistakable, drifting through that open window. "The pregnancy makes it easier, really," Linda was saying. "Once she's home with the baby, she won't notice the money transfers." Emma stopped walking. Her hand, still holding the ultrasound photos, lowered slowly to her side. That couldn't be right. She must have misheard. "Mom, I don't know if I can do this to her." That was Nate, her husband. His voice sounded strained, guilty even. Emma's feet moved on their own, carrying her closer to the window. She pressed herself against the side of the house, hidden from view, but close enough to hear every word. "You don't have a choice, sweetheart," Linda said, her voice taking on that steely quality Emma had only heard a few times before, usually when Linda was handling business matters or dealing with someone who had disappointed her. "Jessica's father can save your business. You know that. But Emma's prenup protects her assets. We need proof she's been unfaithful before we can proceed." The world tilted sideways. Emma put her hand against the brick wall to steady herself. "But she hasn't been unfaithful," Nate said. There was a long pause. "She would never." "Then we'll create the appearance of it," a third voice said. Younger, female, confident in a way that made Emma's skin crawl. "My dad's lawyer can draft the filing. Once we show Emma's inappropriate behavior, the prenup clause triggers. Nate keeps everything, including the equity in her company shares." Jessica, Emma's brain supplied the name even as her heart refused to accept what she was hearing. Jessica Walsh, Nate's new business partner, the woman he'd been working late with for the past 6 months. "What about the baby?" Nate asked. His voice was so quiet Emma almost missed it. "What if this ruins everything?" "That's precisely why we need to move quickly," Linda replied. "Jessica's already been seen at your office after hours. We just need Emma to appear distracted, emotional, unstable. Pregnancy gives us the perfect cover for that." Emma's ultrasound photos slipped from her hand. They scattered across the pavement like fallen leaves, black and white images of her unborn daughter landing face up in the dirt. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what she was hearing. "We're not trying to hurt her," Linda continued, and the sincerity in her voice was almost worse than the words themselves. "We're protecting Nate's future, the business, the family name. Emma's a wonderful girl, but she was never really one of us, was she? This way is cleaner, kinder even." "I don't know," Nate said again. But this time his voice held less conviction. This time he sounded like a man considering his options. Emma's hand moved to her stomach, an automatic protective gesture. 4 months, 16 weeks. Her daughter had fingernails now. Tiny, perfect fingernails. "Then we're agreed," Linda said briskly, as if settling a minor scheduling conflict. "Next week, Jessica's father invests. You and Emma grow apart naturally. By the time the baby comes, the divorce is clean and civil. You get the business, the house, and most importantly, your freedom. And when it's over," Jessica said, her voice warm with promise, "we can finally be together. No more hiding, no more pretending." The nausea hit Emma like a wave. She turned and vomited into Linda's perfectly trimmed boxwood hedge. One hand braced against the brick, the other still pressed to her stomach. Inside the house, she heard movement, footsteps approaching the front door. Emma ran. She ran to her car, fumbling with her keys, her hands shaking so badly she dropped them twice before finally getting the door open. She started the engine and backed out of the driveway too fast, her tires screeching slightly on the asphalt. In her rearview mirror, she saw Linda open the front door, saw her mother-in-law's eyes widen as she spotted the ultrasound photos scattered on the ground. Emma drove. She didn't know where she was going. She just drove, tears streaming down her face, her whole body shaking with sobs she couldn't control. Her phone rang, Nate's ringtone, the one she'd set to that Bruno Mars song from their wedding. She let it go to voicemail. It rang again and again. Finally, she pulled over into an empty parking lot, a grocery store, people walking in and out with their carts, living their normal lives, having no idea that Emma's entire world had just shattered into pieces. She looked at her phone, 7 missed calls from Nate, 3 from Linda, 2 text messages. Nate's text: "Mom said you stopped by. Everything okay? Call me." Linda's text: "Emma dear, I found some photos in the driveway. Please let me know you got home safely." The casual cruelty of it took her breath away. Linda knew. She had to know that Emma had been there, had heard everything, and still she was playing the concerned mother-in-law. Emma's hands moved on their own, opening her voice recorder app. Thank God she'd been recording. She'd started when she first heard Linda's voice through the window, some instinct telling her that something was wrong. She played it back. Heard Linda's voice, clear as day. "The pregnancy makes it easier. Once she's home with the baby, she won't notice the money transfers." It was real. All of it was real. Emma sat in that parking lot for 20 minutes, listening to the recording over and over, until the words lost all meaning and became just sounds. Terrible, life-destroying sounds. Finally, she called the only person she could trust. "Maya," she said when her best friend answered, "I need help. I need a lawyer, and I can't tell Nate why." Maya lived 15 minutes away, but Emma sat in her driveway for 5 minutes before she could make herself get out of the car. Through the living room window, she could see her best friend pacing, phone pressed to her ear, probably already making calls. Maya opened the door before Emma could knock. One look at Emma's face and she pulled her inside, wrapping her in a hug that finally broke the dam. Emma sobbed into her friend's shoulder, her whole body shaking. "I've got you," Maya whispered over and over. "I've got you." When Emma could finally speak, she played the recording. Maya's face went from concerned to shocked to furious in the span of 3 minutes. "That absolute bastard," Maya said. "And his mother, I always knew Linda was cold, but this?" She looked at Emma, her eyes fierce. "We're going to destroy them." "I just want to protect my baby," Emma said, her hand automatically moving to her stomach again. It was a gesture she'd repeated 100 times since leaving Linda's house. "I don't care about the money or the business. I just want Lucy to be safe." "Lucy?" Maya's expression softened. "You picked a name?" "This morning. The ultrasound showed it's a girl. I was going to tell Nate tonight over dinner. I had this whole thing planned." Emma's voice broke. "I bought a little dress. It's pink with elephants on it. It's still in the car." Maya grabbed her hand. Listen to me. You are going to be okay. Lucy is going to be okay. But we need to move fast and we need to be smart. I'm calling Rachel Cole. She's the best divorce attorney in the state, and she owes me a favor. While Maya made the call, Emma sat on the couch, her mind drifting back through her 7 years with Nate, their wedding day. He'd cried when she walked down the aisle. She remembered thinking, this is the man who will never hurt me. The fertility treatments. Nate holding her hand through every injection, every disappointment. We'll keep trying, he'd say, as long as it takes. Just last week, he'd come home with flowers. No reason, he'd said, just wanted to remind you how much I love you. Had it all been a lie? Or had something changed? Had Jessica changed him? Emma pulled out her phone and searched for Jessica Walsh. The social media profiles popped up immediately. 29 years old. Stunning in that effortless way that came from good genes and better skincare. Her feed was full of charity galas, business conferences, and photos with her fiancé. Wait, fiancé? Emma clicked on the most recent photo. Jessica and a handsome man in his early 30s, his arm around her waist, both of them smiling at some black tie event. The caption read, 3 months until we say I do. Love you, Thomas. 3 months. Jessica was getting married in 3 months, and she was having an affair with Nate? Rachel can see you first thing tomorrow morning, Maya said, hanging up. She said to bring any documentation you have. Bank statements, emails, texts, anything that might be relevant. Emma nodded numbly. Maya, Jessica's engaged to someone else. This is all happening so she can what? Get Nate's money and still marry her rich fiancé? Some people are just broken, Maya said quietly. And they break everything they touch. But not you, Em. You're going to survive this. You're the strongest person I know. Emma didn't feel strong. She felt like she was made of glass and someone had taken a hammer to her chest. Her phone rang again. Nate. She stared at it until it went to voicemail. 30 seconds later, a text. Getting worried. Are you okay? Please call me. What do I do? Emma asked. Do I go home? Do I confront him? No, Maya said firmly. Not yet. Rachel will tell you what to do tomorrow. Tonight, you stay here. We order Thai food, woo-wookie, watch terrible reality TV, and you rest for Lucy's sake. But Emma couldn't rest. Even after Maya set her up in the guest room, even after she took a shower and put on borrowed pajamas, she couldn't sleep. She lay in the dark, one hand on her stomach, and thought about every conversation she'd had with Nate in the past 6 months. The late nights at the office. Jessica's dad is really putting us through our paces, he'd say. But it'll be worth it when this deal closes. The distracted dinners, him checking his phone constantly, always with a plausible excuse. The weekend trip he'd taken to Atlanta for a conference. Had Jessica been there too? Emma picked up her phone and opened her text thread with Nate. Scrolled back through months of messages. Love you, miss you, dear. Can't wait to be home. Either he was the world's best liar or something had changed recently. Emma needed to know which. She opened a new browser window and searched for Nate's company finances. Public records showed that Reed Development had taken on significant debt in the past year. 3 projects that had gone over budget. One that had fallen through entirely, costing them nearly $500,000. Then she found it, buried in a Business Journal article from 2 months ago. Reed Development in talks with Walsh Industries for major capital investment. 2 months. Nate and Jessica had been planning this for at least 2 months. Emma set the phone down and closed her eyes. Tomorrow she would meet with Rachel. Tomorrow she would start planning her counterattack. But tonight she let herself grieve. Not for her marriage, she realized. That was already dead. She grieved for the man she thought Nate was, the man who had never existed. In the darkness, her phone buzzed one more time. Another text from Nate. I know you're probably just tired. I love you. Sweet dreams. Emma deleted it without responding. The man who sent that text was a stranger, and strangers couldn't be trusted with her heart, or with her daughter's future. Rachel Cole's office was nothing like Emma expected. No mahogany desk, no intimidating law books, no cold corporate steel. Instead, the space felt warm, almost cozy. Soft gray walls, comfortable chairs, and a desk covered in organized chaos. Case files, post-it notes, and a framed photo of a young girl, maybe 7 years old. My daughter Lily, Rachel said, noticing Emma's gaze. She was 42, with dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and eyes that had seen too much but still held kindness. She's why I do this work. Emma sat down, Maya beside her for support. She'd barely slept. This morning she'd texted Nate that she had a stomach bug and was staying at Maya's. He'd responded immediately with concern, offering to bring her soup. The casual kindness of it made her want to scream. Maya told me the basics, Rachel said, sitting across from Emma. But I need to hear everything. Start from the beginning. Emma told her about the window, the voices, the conspiracy. She played the recording, watching Rachel's face remain carefully neutral as Linda's voice filled the office. When it finished, Rachel leaned back. This is good, but we need to be strategic about how we use it. Depending on your state's recording laws, this might not be admissible in court. I don't understand, Emma said. They're plotting to frame me, to steal from me. How can that not be evidence? It is evidence, but the law is complicated when it comes to recordings made without consent. Rachel pulled out a notepad. Here's what we're going to do. You're going to go home, and you're going to act completely normal. As far as Nate knows, you have no idea about any of this. You want me to pretend everything's fine? Emma's voice rose slightly. To sleep next to him? To let him kiss me knowing he's planning to destroy my life? I know it's hard, Rachel said, her voice gentle but firm. But right now, they think they have all the power. If you confront him, they'll accelerate their plans. They'll move money, hide assets, create the fake evidence faster. We need time to build our own case. Maya squeezed Emma's hand. What kind of case? Emma asked. Rachel counted on her fingers. First, we document everything. Bank records, credit card statements, phone logs. I need to see exactly where Nate's money is going. Second, we need to understand the business. If Jessica's father is investing, there are contracts, agreements. I want to see all of it. Third, we quietly investigate Jessica. If she's engaged to someone else while having an affair with your husband, that's leverage. Leverage? Emma felt sick. I don't want to hurt anyone. I just want to protect my baby. Protecting your baby means protecting yourself, Rachel said, and that requires understanding exactly what you're up against. These people have planned this carefully. We need to be more careful. She pulled out a folder. I'm going to give you a checklist. Things to look for, documents to photograph when Nate's not around. Can you do that? Emma thought about Linda's voice through the window. Once she's home with the baby, she won't notice the money transfers. They were counting on her being weak, distracted, overwhelmed. Yes, Emma said, I can do that. Rachel smiled, a real smile that transformed her face. Good. Because here's what most people don't understand about divorce. It's not about who's right or wrong. It's about who has the better strategy. And right now, we're going to build you an unbeatable strategy. Over the next hour, Rachel outlined the plan. Emma would return home that afternoon, acting like she'd simply been sick at Maya's. She would continue her normal routine, but with new eyes. Every conversation would be remembered. Every document would be photographed. Every text message saved. What about the prenup? Emma asked. Linda mentioned a clause about infidelity. Rachel pulled out another file. I need to see it. But here's the thing about prenups with fidelity clauses. They work both ways. If Nate is having an affair with Jessica, and we can prove it, that clause protects you, not him. Can we prove it? We're going to try, but Emma, I need you to understand something. Rachel leaned forward, her expression serious. This is going to get ugly. They're not going to give up without a fight. There will be days when you want to quit, when the easier path seems like just walking away. Can you stay strong for Lucy? Emma's hand went to her stomach again. This time she felt a flutter. So faint she almost missed it. Her first real movement from her daughter. Yes, Emma said, her voice steady. I can stay strong. When they left the office, Maya drove Emma back to her house. Nate's car was in the driveway. You want me to come in? Maya asked. No, I need to do this alone. Emma walked up to her front door, key in hand. Through the window she could see Nate in the kitchen, making soup. He looked worried, sweet, caring. Everything she'd fallen in love with. She took a deep breath, pasted on a smile, and opened the door. There you are, Nate said, immediately coming over to hug her. I was so worried. How are you feeling? Emma let him hold her, even though his touch now felt foreign. Better, just needed to sleep it off. I made chicken noodle soup, your favorite. He led her to the couch, tucking a blanket around her. You rest, Alamadot. I'll bring it to you. Emma watched him bustle around their kitchen. This man she'd promised to love forever. This man who was planning to betray her in the cruelest way possible. Nate, she said. Yeah? He looked up, concern etched on his face. I love you. His smile was radiant, but I love you too, more than anything. Later that night, lying in bed next to him, listening to his breathing, even out into sleep, Emma allowed herself one moment of weakness. One moment where she whispered into the darkness, how could you do this to us? Then she picked up her phone and sent Rachel a text. I'm ready. Tell me what to do first. The response came within seconds. Check his phone. Photograph everything. Emma looked at Nate's phone charging on the nightstand. She'd never snooped before, had never felt the need. Their marriage had been built on trust. But that marriage was dead now, and Emma needed to know exactly who had killed it. She reached for the phone. 3 days later, Emma sat in her car in the grocery store parking lot, hands shaking as she scrolled through the photos on her phone. She'd spent the past 72 hours living a double life, loving wife by day, detective by night. The cognitive dissonance was exhausting, but the evidence she'd gathered was damning. Nate's text messages with Jessica went back 6 months, just as Emma had suspected. The early messages were professional, friendly. Then, about 2 months ago, they changed. Jessica, I can't stop thinking about last night. Nate, me neither, but we have to be careful. Jessica, I know, just a little while longer. Soon we won't have to hide. Emma had photographed dozens of these exchanges, her stomach churning with each one, but it was the financial records that truly revealed the scope of Nate's betrayal. He'd opened a new credit card in his name only. The statements showed charges at expensive hotels in Atlanta, Chicago, New York. Always on weekends when he'd claimed to be at business conferences, always 2 rooms booked under corporate accounts, never just one. She'd found emails between Nate and Jessica's father, Richard Walsh, terms of investment, percentages, clauses, and buried in the fine print of one draft contract, contingent on resolution of personal matters and verification of unencumbered business partner status. Unencumbered. They needed Nate to be single to complete the deal. Emma had also discovered something else. Bank statements showing that Linda had bailed out Nate's company twice in the past year. $500,000 the first time, $300,000 the second. Money that should have been in Linda's retirement accounts was now tied up in Nate's failing business. No wonder Linda was desperate. She wasn't just protecting her son, she was protecting her own financial future. Emma's phone buzzed. Rachel, did you get everything on the list? The attorney asked. More than you asked for, Emma replied. But Rachel, there's something else. Something that doesn't make sense. Tell me. Jessica's engaged to a man named Thomas Brennan. I looked him up. His family owns Brennan Technologies. They're worth hundreds of millions. If Jessica marries him, she'll have more money than Nate could ever provide. So why risk everything for an affair? Rachel was quiet for a moment. That's a very good question, and I think we need to find out the answer. Can you get close to her? What? No, absolutely not. Hear me out. These people don't know you know. Right now, you have an advantage. If you could somehow arrange a meeting with Jessica, maybe under the guise of getting to know your husband's business partner better. Emma felt her throat tighten. I can't sit across from the woman who's sleeping with my husband and pretend to be friendly. I know it's asking a lot, but Emma, we're missing something. A piece of this puzzle that explains why Jessica is willing to blow up her own life for this. And until we know what it is, we can't protect you fully. That night, Emma did something she hadn't done since high school. She stalked someone's social media. Not just a quick look, but a deep dive into every photo, every comment, every tagged location. Jessica Walsh's life was picture perfect. Charity galas, vacation photos from the Maldives, brunch with girlfriends, and always photos with Thomas. They looked happy, in love. Emma clicked on Thomas's profile. Software engineer turned CEO of his family's company, Yale graduate, member of 3 nonprofit boards. In his most recent post from just 2 days ago, he'd written, "3 more weeks until I marry my best friend, luckiest man alive." 3 weeks. Jessica was getting married in 3 weeks. Emma did the math. If Jessica and Nate's plan worked, if Emma was divorced by then, Jessica could marry Thomas as planned while keeping Nate as a backup or a business partner with benefits. The perfect arrangement for someone who wanted it all. Except Emma wasn't going to let that happen. The next morning, Emma did something bold. She texted Nate, "I'd love to meet Jessica properly. Get to know the woman you're spending so much time with. Why don't you invite her over for dinner this Friday?" Nate's response came quickly. "Really? That's so sweet of you. Let me check with her." Within an hour it was arranged. Jessica Walsh would be coming to their home in 3 days. Emma spent those 3 days preparing. She bought expensive ingredients. She chose her outfit carefully, a flattering dress that showed off her small baby bump without being too obvious. She cleaned the house until it sparkled, and she memorized every detail of the evidence she'd gathered, every text message, every financial statement. "Know your enemy," Rachel had said. Emma intended to know Jessica better than the woman knew herself. Friday arrived. Emma was stirring risotto when the doorbell rang. "I'll get it," Nate called. She heard his voice, bright and cheerful. "Jessica, come in. Emma's made an amazing dinner." Emma took a deep breath, steadied her hands, and turned from the stove with her brightest smile. Jessica Walsh was even more beautiful in person. Dark hair, perfect skin, and eyes that assessed Emma in one swift glance before warming with apparent friendliness. "Emma, I've heard so much about you." Jessica's hug felt genuine. Her perfume was expensive. "Thank you for inviting me. I know Nate and I have been monopolizing each other's time with this deal. I wanted to meet the woman who's been helping my husband build his dreams," Emma said, her voice sweet. They sat down to dinner. The conversation was light, easy. Jessica was charming. She asked about the pregnancy, cooed over Emma's ultrasound photo, and told funny stories about her own childhood that had Nate laughing. Emma watched them. The way Jessica touched Nate's arm when she laughed. The way his eyes lingered on her. The way they moved around each other in the kitchen when clearing plates. A choreography that spoke of familiarity and comfort. It would have destroyed her if she hadn't known the truth. Instead, she filed away every observation for Rachel. "So Jessica," Emma said over dessert, "Nate tells me you are getting married soon. How exciting. Have you and Thomas set a date?" For just a second, something flickered across Jessica's face. Surprise? Annoyance. It was gone too quickly to tell. "Yes, 3 weeks from tomorrow," Jessica said smoothly. "It's been a whirlwind. We've only been engaged for 6 months." "That's fast," Emma said. "You must really love him." "I do," Jessica said, meeting Emma's eyes directly. "Thomas is wonderful, patient, kind, exactly the kind of man you want to build a life with." The subtext was clear. "Unlike your husband." Emma smiled. "Then you're very lucky, both of you." After Jessica left, Nate wrapped his arms around Emma from behind. "That went well. I'm glad you two finally met. She's great, isn't she?" "She's something," Emma May agreed. That night, Emma sent Rachel a detailed message about everything she'd observed. The touches, the looks, the comfortable familiarity between Nate and Jessica. Rachel's response came at 2 in the morning. "Found something. Jessica's father's company is under SEC investigation for fraud. They need clean money fast. That's why they need Nate's business. They're using it to launder funds." "Emma, this is bigger than an affair. This is criminal conspiracy." Emma read the message 3 times, then she looked at Nate, sleeping peacefully beside her, completely unaware that his carefully constructed plan was about to blow up in his face. "Soon, baby, just a little longer." Jessica had texted Nate yesterday. Emma had read that message, and now she understood what Jessica meant. She placed her hand on her stomach, feeling Lucy move. "Your daddy made a terrible mistake," Emma whispered, "but I'm going to protect us. I promise." Emma waited 1 more week. 7 days of smiling, of pretending, of gathering every last piece of evidence. 7 days of watching Nate kiss her goodbye each morning while planning her destruction. 7 days of feeling Lucy kick inside her, reminding her why she had to stay strong. On the 8th day, she was ready. Rachel had prepared everything. Bank statements, phone records, hotel receipts, emails between Nate and Jessica, financial documents showing Richard Walsh's company was under federal investigation, even screenshots of Jessica's engagement post with Thomas. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Rachel had asked that morning. "Once you confront him, there's no going back. Right now, you have the advantage of surprise." "I need to look him in the eye," Emma said. "I need to know if there's any part of the man I married left in there." Now it was 8 o'clock on a Thursday night. Nate was in the living room watching television. Emma had made his favorite dinner, grilled salmon with roasted vegetables. Her last gift to the marriage, she supposed. A final kindness before everything burned down. She sat down next to him, her heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. "Nate, we need to talk." He muted the television, turning to her with concern. "Is everything okay? Is it the baby?" "The baby's fine. Lucy's perfect." Emma took a breath. "I know about Jessica." The change in his expression was instantaneous. Color drained from his face. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. "Emma, please don't lie to me, Adine. Not now, not after 7 years. Her voice was steady, remarkably so. "I know about the affair. I know about the plan with your mother. I know about the prenup clause and how you were going to frame me. I know all of it." Nate stood up, paced to the window, ran his hands through his hair. When he turned back, there were tears in his eyes. "How long have you known?" 3 weeks, since I stopped by your mother's house and heard you all planning it." "Emma, God, Emma, I'm so sorry. It wasn't supposed to—" He stopped, shook his head. "That's not true. It was exactly what it looked like. We were going to destroy you." His honesty, after weeks of deception, was almost shocking. "Why?" Emma asked simply. "That's what I can't understand. Why?" Nate sank onto the couch, his head in his hands. "I was drowning. The business was failing. Mom had already bailed me out twice, and she couldn't do it again. Jessica's father offered to invest, but only if I was single. He didn't trust married partners, said they were distracted, divided loyalties. So you decided to get rid of me." Jessica said it would be easy. Frame you for an affair, trigger the prenup clause, get a quick divorce. By the time the baby came, we'd have a custody arrangement and I'd have the capital to save the company. He looked up, his face devastated. It all made sense when she explained it, like it was just a business decision. "And the affair? Was that a business decision too?" Nate's silence was answer enough. "How long?" Emma asked. 4 months, maybe 5. It started at a conference in Atlanta. We'd been drinking, talking about the deal. One thing led to another. I told myself it was just once. Then it was twice. Then we stopped pretending it was a mistake." Emma felt strangely calm. The anger she'd expected wasn't there. Just a deep, aching sadness for what they'd lost. Or maybe for what had never really existed. "She's engaged, Nate. Did you know that?" "I knew. She told me it was complicated, that she needed to marry Thomas for business reasons. But after the deal with her father went through, she and I could be together properly. I believed her." "You believed a woman who was willing to help you frame your pregnant wife?" Nate flinched. "When you say it like that, it sounds exactly like what it is." Emma stood up. "I'm filing for divorce. You can keep the house. I don't want your mother's money or your failing business. But you will acknowledge Lucy and you will pay child support. Emma, please, we can fix this. I'll end things with Jessica. I'll sell the business. We'll move somewhere new, start over." "Nate." Emma's voice was gentle, which somehow made it worse. "You plotted with your mother and your mistress to psychologically torture me, steal my money, and potentially take my child. There is no fixing that. That marriage is dead. You killed it. I still love you." "No, you don't. You love the idea of me, the convenient, trusting wife who wouldn't ask questions. But I'm asking now, did you ever actually love me? Or was I always just a means to an end?" Nate's face crumpled. "I did love you, in the beginning. Maybe I still do, I don't know. But Emma, you have to understand, I was desperate. The pressure from Mom, from the business, from everyone expecting me to be this successful Reed heir. I made terrible choices. You did, Emma agreed. And now you get to live with them. She walked toward the bedroom, then paused at the door. Jessica's father's company is under SEC investigation for fraud. Rachel found out yesterday. They're not investing in your business to save it. They're using it to launder money. Whatever deal you made with them, it's going to land you in federal prison. Nate went pale. What? You might want to call a lawyer, a criminal one. Emma closed the bedroom door behind her. She waited until she heard the front door slam, heard Nate's car start and pull out of the driveway. Then she called Rachel. It's done, Emma said. How do you feel? Emma considered the question. How did she feel? Not triumphant, not vindicated, just tired and strangely free. Like I can breathe again, she said finally. Good. Now comes the hard part. He's going to try to minimize this, make it seem like a midlife crisis or a mistake. Don't let him. Stay strong. I will. For Lucy. After hanging up, Emma sat in her bedroom, her former bedroom, she supposed, and looked at the ultrasound photo taped to the mirror. 4 months had become 5 months. Lucy was the size of a banana now, according to the pregnancy app. She could hear sounds, respond to light. Your daddy's not a bad person, Emma told her daughter. He just made bad choices. We're going to give him a chance to be better. But we're not going to be there while he figures it out. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Meet me tomorrow, 2 p.m. Riverside Cafe. Come alone. Jessica. Emma stared at the message for a long time. Then she forwarded it to Rachel with a single question. Should I? Rachel's response came quickly. Yes, but I'm coming too. You won't see me, but I'll be there, just in case. Emma typed back her response to Jessica. I'll be there. Tomorrow she would face the other woman, the one who had helped destroy her marriage, the one who was still planning to marry her fiancé in 3 weeks while having an affair with Emma's husband. Emma should have been nervous, should have been scared. Instead, she felt nothing but a cold, hard determination. Jessica Walsh had underestimated her. They all had. That was a mistake they were all going to regret. The Riverside Cafe was exactly the kind of place Emma expected Jessica to choose. Upscale without being ostentatious, with private booths tucked into corners where conversations couldn't be overheard. Emma arrived 10 minutes early, spotted Rachel 3 tables away reading a book, and felt marginally better knowing she wasn't alone. Jessica swept in precisely at 2 o'clock. She wore a cream silk blouse and tailored pants, looking every inch the successful businesswoman. She slid into the booth across from Emma without preamble. Thank you for coming, Jessica said. Did I have a choice? Everyone has choices, Emma. That's the point I wanted to discuss. Jessica ordered a green tea when the waitress appeared, then waited until they were alone again. Nate told me you know everything. He seemed quite broken up about it, Emma said dryly. He should be. He's an idiot. Jessica's bluntness was startling. I told him to be more careful. I told him we needed to move faster. But Nate's always been weak when it comes to you. Weak, Emma repeated. Interesting word choice. He loves you, you know, or his version of love anyway, which is why this whole thing got so messy. Jessica leaned forward. But here's what you don't understand, Emma. This isn't about you. It never was. Then what is it about? Survival. Jessica's mask slipped just for a moment, showing something harder underneath. My father's company is collapsing. The SEC investigation, the lawsuits, all of it. He has about 6 months before everything comes crashing down. 6 months to move money, to create clean revenue streams, to build a buffer. By committing fraud. By being smart, Jessica stirred at her tea. Nate's business was perfect. Small enough to fly under the radar, large enough to move serious capital through. And Nate himself? He was desperate enough to be manipulated and too naive to understand what he was really agreeing to. You used him. I needed him. There's a difference, blah. Jessica's eyes were cold. And before you start feeling too sorry for him, remember that he agreed to destroy you to save himself. I didn't force him to do that. I just provided the opportunity. Emma felt Lucy kick, a sharp reminder of what was at stake. What about Thomas? Your fiancé? For the first time, Jessica's composure cracked. Just slightly, but enough to notice. Thomas is none of your concern. He is when you're planning to marry him in 3 weeks while conducting an affair with my husband. That arrangement is ending. Nate is a complication I no longer need. Jessica's voice turned businesslike again. Which brings me to why I asked you here. I want to make a deal. You want to make a deal? Emma repeated slowly. With me. After trying to frame me, steal my money, and take my child. I want to offer you insurance, Jessica corrected. Against Nate, against his mother, against all of this getting even uglier than it already is. She pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. Emma didn't touch it. What is this? Everything. Complete financial records of the deal between my father and Nate. Emails showing Linda knew about the fraud. Phone recordings of conversations between Nate and me discussing the setup. Enough evidence to put all of them away and leave you completely clean. Emma stared at the folder. Why would you give me this? Because I'm getting married in 3 weeks, Emma. To a man whose family would destroy me if they knew any of this. I need Nate to disappear quietly. I need his mother to keep her mouth shut. And I need you to have enough leverage to make sure they do exactly that. You're protecting yourself. Of course I am. I always have been. Jessica's smile was sharp. The difference between you and me, Emma, is that I never pretended to be anything other than what I am. You, on the other hand, played the perfect wife while your husband's business burned around you. You had access to all his accounts, all his documents. You could have stopped this 6 months ago if you'd been paying attention. The words hit harder than Emma expected because they were partly true. She had been willfully blind, choosing trust over vigilance, choosing peace over truth. That's not fair, Emma said quietly. No, it's not, but it's accurate. Jessica stood up. Take the folder. Use it however you need to. Protect your daughter. Build your new life. But Emma, when this is all over, remember that you had just as many choices as everyone else in this mess. You chose to trust the wrong people. She left without looking back, her tea untouched on the table. Emma sat there for 5 minutes before Rachel slid into the booth across from her. Did you hear all that? Emma asked. Every word. Rachel pulled the folder closer, began flipping through it. Her eyes widened. Emma, this is incredible. This is everything we needed and more. With this, you can file for full custody, complete financial separation, and potentially press criminal charges against Nate and his mother. She's using me. Of course she is, but she's also giving you the weapon you need to win. Rachel looked up. The question is, are you willing to use it? Emma thought about Lucy, about raising a daughter in a world where people like Jessica existed, people who manipulated and used and discarded others without remorse. Did she want to be someone who fought fire with fire, or someone who rose above it? I want to talk to Linda, Emma said suddenly. Linda, why? Because she's Nate's mother, because she was trying to protect her son, because maybe if I can make her understand what they're really involved in, I can get her to turn against Jessica and Richard Walsh. Rachel looked skeptical. Emma, Linda tried to destroy you. She tried to protect her son. There's a difference. Emma picked up the folder. Jessica's right about one thing. We all made choices. Nate chose his business over his family. Jessica chose survival over ethics. I chose trust over vigilance. Maybe Linda can choose her grandchild over her pride. That's optimistic. I'm pregnant and getting divorced. Optimism is all I have left. That evening, Emma drove to Linda's house, the same house where she'd overheard the conversation that had destroyed her marriage. She parked in the driveway, looked at the kitchen window, closed now, and took a deep breath before knocking on the door. Linda answered almost immediately. She looked older than Emma remembered. Tired, worried. Emma, she said, I wasn't expecting you. I know. Can we talk? They sat in Linda's living room, the same room where the conspiracy had been planned. Emma found herself looking at family photos on the mantel. Nate as a child, grinning at the camera. Linda and her late husband on their wedding day. A photo of Emma and Nate from their wedding. I heard you that day, Emma said quietly. 3 weeks ago, through the kitchen window, I heard everything you, Nate, and Jessica said. Linda closed her eyes. I know, I saw your car. I knew you were there. Then why did you keep talking? Why did you let me hear all of that? Because I thought if you knew how serious we were, you'd leave quietly. Save us all the mess of a public divorce. Linda opened her eyes, met Emma's gaze directly. I was wrong about everything. About you, about Jessica, about what I was protecting Nate from. What changed your mind? I started asking questions about Jessica's father, about the deal, about why it all had to happen so quickly, and I found things that terrified me. Linda's hands trembled. Emma, my son is involved in something that could destroy him, and I'm the one who pushed him into it. Emma pulled out Jessica's folder. I know, and I can help, but I need you to help me too. They talked for 2 hours. Emma showed Linda the evidence, explained the fraud, the money laundering, the criminal conspiracy. Watched Linda's face cycle through shock, denial, anger, and finally acceptance. He's going to prison, isn't he? Linda asked finally. Not if we stop this now. Not if we get him to testify against Richard Walsh and Jessica. Emma leaned forward. But that means you have to choose, Linda. Your son's freedom or your pride. His future or the Reed family reputation. Linda looked at the photos on the mantel again. Her eyes settled on the one of young Nate, happy and innocent. What do you need me to do? She asked. The next morning, Linda called Nate and asked him to come to her house. Emma watched from her car down the street, saw Nate pull up, saw him walk inside looking confused and worried. Rachel sat in the passenger seat, a recording device ready. Are you sure about this? She asked Emma for the third time. No, but it's the right thing to do. Inside Linda's house, the conversation was happening exactly as they'd planned. Linda had worn a wire, her idea, not Emma's. I need to make this right, she'd said that morning. For my granddaughter, for the woman my son should have protected instead of betrayed. Now through the recording device, they heard Linda's voice, steady and clear. Nathan, sit down. We need to talk about Jessica. Mom, not you too. Emma's already what? Figured out that you're committing federal crimes? That Jessica and her father are using you to launder money? Linda's voice hardened. Did you think I wouldn't find out? Silence from Nate. I'm your mother. I've protected you your whole life. Bailed you out of every mistake, every failed venture. But this is beyond anything I can fix. Mom, it's not what you think. The investment is legitimate. Jessica's father has lawyers, accountants, who are all under SEC investigation. I hired a private investigator, Nathan. I know everything. The fraud, the money laundering, all of it. And I know that when this comes out, you're going to be the fall guy. You and your clean business that was so perfectly positioned to move dirty money. In the car, Emma listened to Nate's breathing become ragged, heard the moment of silence that stretched too long. What do you want me to do? Nate asked finally, his voice small. I want you to tell me the truth. All of it. Did you know what you were getting into? I suspected. At first, I told myself I was just being paranoid. But then things started adding up. The amounts didn't make sense. The urgency didn't make sense. And Jessica kept pushing for everything to happen faster, before the wedding, before Thomas's family could discover what she was doing. Yeah, Nate's voice broke. Mom, I'm so sorry. I thought I could handle it. I thought I could take the money, save the business, and Emma would never have to know. Then I'd phase out the Walsh involvement quietly, and everything would be fine. By destroying your wife, by framing her for adultery? Jessica said it was the only way, that Emma's prenup protected too much money, that we needed her out of the picture before the investment happened so there were no complications. Linda's voice turned cold. And you agreed. You looked at your pregnant wife and agreed to destroy her. I know, God, I know. The sound of movement like Nate was pacing. I can't take it back. I can't fix it. Emma won't even look at me now. She shouldn't. You don't deserve her. Linda paused. But you do have one chance to make this right. For your daughter, if not for Emma. How? You're going to testify against Richard Walsh, against Jessica, against everyone involved in this fraud. You're going to cooperate fully with federal investigators and accept whatever plea deal they offer you. That's prison time, Mom. Even with cooperation, I'm looking at years. Then you should have thought of that before you committed felonies. Linda's voice softened slightly. But if you do this, if you tell the truth and help bring down the people who used you, then maybe Emma will let you be part of Lucy's life someday. A supervised part, but a part nonetheless. Why would she do that? Because despite everything you've done to her, Emma Reed is a better person than either of us deserve. Linda took a breath. I'm going to tell you something, Nathan. That day Emma overheard us, when she heard me say those terrible things about her, I knew she was there. I saw her car. I kept talking because I wanted her to hear it. I wanted her to leave quietly, to make our lives easier. Mom, but she didn't leave quietly. She fought. She documented everything, built a case, protected herself and her child. She did what I should have taught you to do. She protected what mattered instead of what was easy. Linda's voice cracked. I was wrong about her, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life making it up to her and my granddaughter. In the car, Emma wiped tears from her cheeks. That's it, Rachel said softly, turning off the recording. We have everything we need now. Nate's admission, Linda's corroboration. Combined with Jessica's evidence, this case is airtight. What happens now? Now we file. Divorce proceedings, criminal referrals, the whole thing, and Emma? Rachel turned to look at her. You've won. They can't touch you anymore. But Emma didn't feel victorious. She felt exhausted and sad, and worried about the little girl growing inside her who would grow up with a father marked by his mistakes. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. I hope you're happy. You've destroyed everything. Jessica. Emma stared at the message, then typed back, No, you destroyed everything. I just made sure it didn't take me down too. She deleted the message thread and blocked the number. That evening, Linda came to Emma's house. They sat in the living room, not speaking for a long time. Finally, Linda said, I heard you that day too. Outside the window, I heard you get sick in the bushes, and I did nothing. I know. Can you forgive me? Linda's eyes filled with tears. For my granddaughter's sake, if not for mine. Emma looked at this woman who had tried to destroy her. This woman who had been trying in her own twisted way to protect her son. This woman who was Lucy's grandmother. I don't know, Emma said honestly. Right now, I'm still angry, still hurt. But I'm trying, for Lucy. She deserves to have a grandmother who loves her. She does, and I do love her already. Linda placed a hand on Emma's belly, tentative. May I? Emma nodded. They sat like that for a while, Linda's hand on Emma's stomach, both of them feeling Lucy move, creating life in the middle of so much destruction. I sold the house, Linda said suddenly. The one with the window. I can't live there anymore, knowing what I said in that room, what I planned. Where will you go? I bought a small condo downtown, 2 bedrooms, one for me, one for Lucy. If you ever decide she can visit, I won't push. I'll wait until you're ready. Emma felt something shift inside her. Not forgiveness, exactly, but the possibility of it. The first small brick in the wall of her anger. Ask me again in a year, Emma said. After Lucy's born, after the divorce is final, after we've all had time to deal with the consequences of our choices. That's more than I deserve. Blah. Yes, Emma agreed. It is. The confrontation happened 2 weeks later in Nate's office. Emma, Rachel, and Linda on one side. Nate, Jessica, and Jessica's fiancé, Thomas, on the other. Thomas had been brought in by Emma specifically. He deserved to know what his fiancé had been doing. The office was sterile, corporate, all glass and steel. Through the windows, the city stretched out below them, oblivious to the drama unfolding on the 40th floor. Thomas Brennan looked like he'd been hit by a truck. He sat next to Jessica, but there was a careful distance between them now. No touching, no shared glances, just cold, betrayed silence. Thank you all for coming, Rachel began, her attorney voice crisp and professional. She laid out folders in front of each person. Inside, you'll find comprehensive documentation of the fraud scheme involving Reed Development, Walsh Industries, and several offshore accounts. Jessica's face remained impassive, but Emma saw her hands clench under the table. Mr. Brennan, I'm sorry you had to find out this way, Rachel continued. But your fiancé has been conducting an affair with Mr. Reed for approximately 5 months, while simultaneously using his company to launder money for her father's failing business. Thomas opened his folder, began reading. His jaw tightened. That's a lie, Jessica said calmly. Emma's bitter about her failing marriage and is creating fantasies too. There are hotel receipts, Thomas said quietly, not looking up from the documents. With both your names. On weekends, you told me you were at work conferences. Jessica's mask cracked. Thomas, Can you explain this email? He pulled out a printed message, his hands shaking. Where you tell Nate that you can't wait to be free of me once the deal closes? Where you discuss which apartment you'll buy together with the profits? The silence in the room was deafening. Emma watched Jessica's face cycle through emotions. Denial, calculation, and finally cold acceptance. Fine. Yes, I was having an affair. Nate was useful. He had a clean business that my father needed, and he was desperate enough to be manipulated. It was transactional. You told me you loved me, Nate said, his voice hollow. I told you what you needed to hear. Jessica turned to him, her expression almost pitying. Did you really think this was about love? You were drowning in debt, Nate. Your mother had already bailed you out twice. You were one bad quarter away from bankruptcy. I offered you a lifeline, and you took it. That's business. It's fraud, Rachel interjected, and conspiracy, and about 6 other federal crimes. Mr. Reed has agreed to cooperate with investigators in exchange for a reduced sentence, which means, Ms. Walsh, that you and your father are about to face the full force of federal prosecution. Jessica laughed, a brittle sound. You think I don't have lawyers? Better lawyers than you? Your lawyers can't change the evidence. Rachel pulled out another folder. These are recordings of conversations between you and Mr. Reed where you explicitly discuss moving dirty money through his company. These are bank records showing the transfers. These are emails between you and your father discussing the timeline for getting Nate divorced before his wife could interfere. How did you? Jessica stopped, realization dawning. You gave them everything. She was looking at Nate. I gave them everything, Nate confirmed. Because you were right about one thing, Jessica. I am weak. But I'm not weak enough to let my daughter grow up thinking her father chose money over her mother. Your daughter, Jessica spat. God, Nate, grow up. Emma's using the baby to manipulate you, just like I did. The only difference is she's better at pretending to care. That's not true, Linda said sharply. Everyone turned to look at her. Emma has been nothing but gracious through this entire nightmare. She could have destroyed all of us, including me, but instead she's offering my son a chance to be a father. That's not manipulation, that's mercy. Thomas stood up abruptly. The wedding's off, he said to Jessica. Obviously, I'll have my lawyers contact you about the prenup. You won't get a cent from my family. Thomas, wait. Jessica grabbed his arm. He shook her off. I loved you. I actually loved you. And you were using me the entire time. Everyone uses everyone, Jessica said desperately. That's how the world works. You're naive if you think otherwise. Thomas looked at Emma. I'm sorry you had to go through this. If there's anything I can do to help, there is actually, Rachel said. We need your testimony about what you knew regarding Walsh Industries' financial situation. It will help establish that Ms. Walsh was aware of the fraud. I'll testify to whatever you need. Thomas looked at Jessica one last time. I really thought you were different. I thought we were building something real. We were, Jessica said softly, but real doesn't pay the bills. After Thomas left, the room felt smaller. Jessica sat alone on one side of the table, Emma, Rachel, Linda, and Nate on the other. The metaphor wasn't lost on anyone. So what happens now? Jessica asked. Her bravado was gone, replaced by something that might have been genuine fear. Now you hire a criminal defense attorney, Rachel said. The FBI has already been notified. They'll want to talk to you about your father's activities, the money laundering, and your role in all of it. I was just trying to save my family. By destroying mine, Emma said quietly. It was the first time she'd spoken directly to Jessica since the meeting began. You had choices. You could have gotten a legitimate investor. You could have gone to authorities about your father. You could have been honest with Thomas. Instead, you chose to hurt people. Like you've never made a selfish choice? Jessica shot back. I'm sure I have, but I never pretended to be someone's friend while planning to destroy them. I never slept with someone's husband while helping to frame her. Emma stood up, placed her hands on the table. You know what the worst part is? I feel sorry for you. Because when this is all over, when the lawsuits are settled and the criminal cases are closed, I'll still have my daughter. I'll still have a life. What will you have? Jessica didn't answer. We're done here, Rachel said, gathering her files. Ms. Walsh, expect to hear from federal investigators within the week. Mrs. Sir Reed, your deposition is scheduled for Friday. Mrs. Reed, Sr., thank you for your cooperation. They left Jessica sitting alone in that glass office, surrounded by the debris of her carefully constructed lies. In the elevator, no one spoke. Emma felt Lucy moving inside her, little kicks and rolls that reminded her why all of this had been worth it. What will happen to her? Linda asked finally. Prison, probably, Rachel said. 3 to 5 years if she cooperates. More if she doesn't. Her father's looking at much longer. And Nate? 18 months, maybe 2 years with good behavior. He'll serve his time, and then he'll have to rebuild his life from scratch. Emma closed her eyes. 2 years. Lucy would be a toddler by the time her father got out of prison. Would she even remember him? I know you're angry, Nate said suddenly. I know I don't deserve anything from you. But Emma, please, let me be part of her life. Even supervised, even just phone calls. Please don't shut me out completely. Emma looked at him, this man she'd loved, this man who'd betrayed her, this man who was Lucy's father. I'll think about it, she said finally. That's all I can promise right now. It would have to be enough. 6 months later, Emma stood on the courthouse steps, 9 months pregnant and victorious. The divorce was final. The custody agreement signed, the criminal cases winding through the system. Rachel stood beside her, looking satisfied. You did it. Full custody, child support, and complete financial independence. Plus, Nate's testimony should put Richard Walsh away for a long time. Emma looked down at her swollen belly. Any day now, Lucy would arrive. Any day now, everything would change again. I don't feel like I won, Emma said. I feel like everyone lost. That's because you're a good person. But Emma, look what you accomplished. You protected yourself and your daughter. You exposed a criminal conspiracy. You gave Nate a chance to do the right thing. That's not losing, that's grace under fire. Emma's phone buzzed. A text from Jessica, sent from a new number Emma hadn't blocked yet. I'm sorry, you deserve better. So did he. Emma stared at the message for a long moment, then showed it to Rachel. Do you believe her? Rachel asked. I think she's sorry she got caught, Emma said. But maybe there's a part of her that genuinely regrets how she treated people. I don't know. It doesn't really matter anymore. She deleted the message without responding. That evening, Emma went into labor. Maya drove her to the hospital, held her hand through contractions, called Linda when the time came. Lucy arrived at 3:17 in the morning, 6 pounds, 8 ounces of perfect, screaming humanity. Emma held her daughter for the first time and felt everything else fall away. The betrayal, the anger, the fear. None of it mattered in the face of this tiny person who depended on her completely. She's beautiful, the nurse said. Does Dad know? Emma looked at Lucy's face, so new and innocent. Call Nate Reed, she told Maya. Tell him he has a daughter. Tell him I'll allow supervised visits starting in 3 months. Emma, are you sure? Maya asked. No, but she deserves a chance to know her father. Even if he's a flawed man who made terrible choices. Maybe especially because he's a flawed man who's trying to do better. Linda arrived an hour later, tears streaming down her face as she held her granddaughter for the first time. Thank you, she whispered to Emma. Thank you for letting me be part of this. Don't thank me yet. You haven't experienced 3 a.m. feedings. Linda laughed through her tears. I'll take every shift you'll let me have. Nate arrived the next morning, escorted by his lawyer. He couldn't come into the room. The custody agreement didn't allow it yet. But Emma held Lucy up to the window, let him see his daughter's face. She watched Nate cry, watched him press his hand against the glass, watched him mouth, I'm sorry, over and over. Emma didn't forgive him. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But she nodded, acknowledging his remorse. That would have to be enough for now. 3 weeks later, Rachel called with news. Jessica took a plea deal, 4 years in federal prison. She testified against her father, and Richard Walsh is looking at 12 years. What about Nate? He's still cooperating. The DA is recommending 18 months. He'll be out before Lucy's second birthday. And then what? Emma asked. Then you figure out what comes next. But Emma, you've given that little girl the most important thing, a mother who will fight for her no matter what. That's more than a lot of kids get. Emma looked at Lucy sleeping in her bassinet, so peaceful and perfect. I just want her to grow up knowing she's loved. By me, by her grandmother, maybe even by her father someday. She will, because you're making sure of it. 2 years passed like a dream. Emma started her nonprofit, New Start Legal Aid, helping women navigate divorces with dignity and safety. Linda sold her big house and bought a condo downtown with a nursery decorated in soft yellows and greens. Nate served his time and got out 16 months after Lucy was born. The supervised visits started slowly. Once a month at first, with Linda present. Nate would sit on the floor and play with Lucy, read her books, make her laugh. Emma watched from a distance, seeing glimpses of the man she'd married in the gentle way he handled their daughter. She looks like you, Nate said one day, not looking at Emma. She has your eyes. A moment of shared grief for what they'd lost. Then Lucy laughed, and the moment passed. Jessica got out after 3 years for good behavior. Emma never saw her again, but she heard through Rachel that Jessica had started a nonprofit of her own, helping young women avoid the destructive patterns that had defined her life. People could change, Emma supposed, or at least try to. Now, on a Tuesday afternoon, Emma drove to Linda's condo to drop Lucy off. Her daughter was 3 years old now, chattering constantly, full of questions about everything. As Emma approached the door, she heard voices through an open window. For a moment, she froze, transported back to that day in Linda's old house. The day everything changed. But this time, the voice she heard made her smile. Can you write the word I taught you? Linda was asking. Emma moved closer to the window, watching through the gap in the curtains. Lucy sat at a small table, her tongue poking out in concentration as she carefully drew letters with a fat crayon. Forgive. Almost there, sweetie, Linda said gently. One more letter. E, Lucy announced triumphantly, adding the final letter. Forgive. Perfect, Linda said, her voice thick with emotion. Do you know what it means? Lucy thought hard. It means, when someone hurts you, you can still love them. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Through the window, she saw Linda pull Lucy into a hug, saw her granddaughter's small arms wrap around her grandmother's neck. That's exactly right, sweetheart. It's one of the hardest things in the world to do, but also one of the most important. Emma knocked on the door. Lucy jumped up and ran to answer it, Linda following behind. Mommy, I wrote a new word. Lucy held up her paper proudly. Show me, Emma said, kneeling down. Lucy held up the paper. Forgive. Emma looked up at Linda. Their eyes met. No words were needed, just understanding, just a slow, painful process of healing. That's a beautiful word, Emma said to her daughter. Where did you learn it? Grandma Linda taught me. She said it's what families do. She's very wise. Linda's eyes filled with tears. Would you like to stay for lunch? I made Lucy's favorite, grilled cheese with the crusts cut off. Emma checked her watch. She had a meeting with a new client in 2 hours, a woman whose husband was trying to claim their business solely belonged to him. Emma would help her, just as Rachel had helped Emma. The cycle of support continuing. But she had time for lunch, time for her daughter, time to continue building something new from the ashes of what had been destroyed. We'd love to stay, Emma said. They ate lunch together, Linda, Emma, and Lucy, 3 generations of women who'd survived betrayal and chosen grace. Not because it was easy, but because it was right. After lunch, Emma and Lucy walked to the nearby playground, the same playground where Emma had met David 3 years ago. They'd gone on a few dates, and while nothing had come of it romantically, they'd remained friends. He still brought his boys here on weekends, and sometimes they'd run into each other and let the kids play together. Today, a different man was there. Younger, maybe 35, helping a little boy on the monkey bars. When Lucy dropped her toy, he picked it up and handed it to her with a kind smile. Thank you, Emma said. No problem, she's adorable. First kid? Only kid, actually, you? My nephew, babysitting duty while my sister's at work. He extended his hand. I'm Marcus. Emma. She shook his hand, feeling no spark but no discomfort either. Just the simple pleasure of a normal conversation with a nice person. Are you new to the neighborhood? Just moved here from Chicago, divorced, fresh start, all that fun stuff. Emma laughed. Graduated from marriage myself. Best thing that ever happened to me, actually. Marcus grinned. Right? Everyone acts like it's the end of the world, but sometimes it's just the beginning of a better one. When they watched the kids play in comfortable silence, Emma thought about Jessica's text from 3 years ago. You deserved better. So did he. She'd deserved better, but more importantly, she'd found better. Not in a new relationship or a dramatic transformation, just in the quiet strength of rebuilding her life one day at a time. So, Marcus said eventually, is this where I ask if you'd want to grab coffee sometime? Or is that too forward? Emma considered. She'd been alone for 3 years, focused entirely on Lucy and her nonprofit. Was she ready to let someone new into her life? Did she want to? Coffee sounds nice, she heard herself say. But fair warning, I have a 3-year-old, a demanding job, and emotional baggage that comes with its own set of luggage. I have a gambling problem I'm 2 years sober from, a manipulative ex-wife, and I ugly cry during Pixar movies. So I think we're about even. Emma laughed, a real laugh that felt good in her chest. Friday afternoon, there's a place downtown that has a play area for kids. Lucy and I will be there. As they exchanged numbers, Emma felt Lucy tug on her sleeve. Mommy, who's that? A new friend, baby. I like making new friends. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. They left the playground as the sun started to set, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Emma held Lucy's hand, feeling her daughter's small fingers wrapped trustingly around hers. Mommy? Lucy asked as they walked to the car. Yes, baby? What does forgive mean for real? Emma stopped, knelt down to Lucy's level. It means that when someone hurts you, even someone you love, you can choose not to stay angry forever. You can choose to remember the good parts along with the bad, and you can choose to let yourself be happy again. Even if they hurt you really bad. Emma thought about Nate, about Linda, about Jessica, about all the ways people could fail each other and still deserve second chances. Even then. But forgiveness doesn't mean you forget what happened. It just means you don't let it control your life anymore. Did someone hurt you, Mommy? Yes, but I'm okay now. We're okay now. Emma hugged her daughter tight. And you, my sweet girl, are going to grow up knowing that love is stronger than hurt, that families can heal, that second chances are real. And third chances? Lucy asked seriously. Emma laughed. Sometimes even third chances. As they drove home, Emma's phone buzzed with a text, an unknown number. For a moment, her heart clenched. Another surprise from the past? But it was just Marcus. Looking forward to Friday, and for what it's worth, I think you're pretty brave. Emma smiled, typed back. Just trying to teach my daughter that we write our own endings. Because that was the truth she'd learned in these 3 years. This truth that had saved her when everything fell apart. You couldn't control what other people did. You couldn't stop them from betraying you or lying to you or breaking your heart. But you could control who you became in response. You could choose grace over bitterness, forgiveness over revenge, hope over despair. The window at Linda's old house had shown Emma the worst of people, but it had also given her the truth she needed to save herself. And sometimes the worst moments become the catalyst for the best changes. 3 months later, Emma stopped by Linda's condo to pick up Lucy after a grandmother-granddaughter day. As she approached, she heard Lucy's voice through the open window, singing a song she'd learned at preschool. Emma paused, just for a moment, listening, not to uncover secrets this time, just to hear her daughter's happiness, just to appreciate the simple beauty of a 3-year-old's off-key singing. Linda's voice joined in, equally off-key, making Lucy giggle with delight. Emma knocked on the door. Linda answered, Lucy in her arms. Perfect timing, Linda said. We just finished making cookies. Lucy decorated them herself. I made one for you, Mommy. Lucy held up a cookie covered in approximately 7 pounds of icing and sprinkles. It's beautiful, Emma said, taking it. Just like you. As they said goodbye, Linda touched Emma's arm gently. Thank you for giving me another chance, for letting me be part of Lucy's life. I know I didn't deserve it. Emma looked at this woman who had once tried to destroy her. This woman who now loved Lucy fiercely and had spent 3 years proving she could change. We all deserve second chances, Emma said, even when we don't think we do. She drove home with Lucy chattering in the back seat, eating her cookie, which was truly terrible, but she'd never tell her daughter that. Tomorrow she had coffee with Marcus. Next week, she had a major presentation for a grant that would expand her nonprofit to 3 more states. Her life was full. Not perfect, it would never be perfect, but full in all the ways that mattered. Sometimes Emma still thought about that afternoon at Linda's old house. The moment everything changed. The window that had revealed the truth. But now she understood something she hadn't then. The window hadn't destroyed her life, it had saved it. By showing her the truth, however painful, it had given her the power to choose her own path, to fight for herself and her daughter, to demand better, to become stronger. The worst thing she'd ever overheard had become the best thing that ever happened to her. And that, Emma thought as she tucked Lucy into bed that night, was the real meaning of forgiveness. Not forgetting the pain, but transforming it into something that made you wiser, stronger, more compassionate. I love you, baby girl, Emma whispered, kissing Lucy's forehead. I love you more, Mommy. Impossible. Possible, Lucy giggled sleepily. Emma turned off the light, leaving the door cracked open just enough to let in a sliver of hallway light. In the doorway, she paused and looked back at her daughter, already drifting off to sleep. This little girl would grow up knowing her mother had fought for her, had survived betrayal and come out stronger, had chosen healing over hatred. That was the legacy Emma wanted to leave. Not the story of how she was betrayed, but the story of how she survived it. She closed the door softly and walked to her own room, ready for whatever tomorrow would bring. Because she wasn't afraid of windows anymore. She knew they could show you truth. And truth, however painful, was always better than beautiful lies.